Campuseros. Welcome to the Reboot the World Campus Party's first ever digital edition. We are excited this afternoon to have Cynthia Hutchison with us. She's Senior Vice President at Automation Alley. She will present Industry 4.0 in the new normal. Over to you, Cynthia.
Thank you. It's nice to be here. So first of all, welcome to all the Campuseros. I was looking forward to meeting all of you and finding out more about you. And, I wish we could do it in a more interactive way. But for now, I'm going to tell you about me. And I hope you'll have questions and ask me questions so that I can learn a little bit about you as I go. So having said welcome, Campuseros, because I love the name, I will now give you a really quick slide that gives you an applause, because I want to make sure we get to know that we're thinking that way. Many of you attending this conference you're the very individuals that will, in a very few short years, you will be making up the majority of the workforce. Ultimately, you're the innovators that will shape what our future looks like. So that's for you, the leaders of the future. According to the World Economic Forum, 65% of children entering school today will end up working in jobs that don't even exist right now. It's important to know that because you are in that group. Well, you're not that young. But as children enter school and change in things, that is really rapid change. It's so rapid, it's almost impossible to know which occupations will thrive in the years to come. But there are ways we can prepare. Knowledge is always king. I'm here to talk about how we prepare people with knowledge through Automation Alley, but I want to talk to you about how that applies to you. We are the Industry 4.0 Knowledge Center for Michigan. And that means we're aggregating the knowledge that we believe it takes to drive manufacturing into the future. In Michigan, we do many things very well, but we especially make things. And we make things with pride and precision. We are the king of the applied manufacturing sector. So when we look at engineering, we apply theory here, and we make sure that things are safe and things are well made. For those of you not familiar with the organization, I'm going to give you a really brief introduction. We are in Michigan, and we serve over 1,000 member companies. We work closely with them. We are also the World Economic Forum's advanced manufacturing hub for North America. In that role, we get a chance to bring together the knowledge of our industry, our government, our academic institutions, and our manufacturing sector, and bring them together in ways that they may not meet otherwise. It's a chance for people to talk cross-industry, cross-geography, cross-cultural, and learn what it takes to move into the future. Again, we start with Michigan, but we can apply these things all over the world in new places. As a knowledge center, we really are striving to equip companies with the knowledge and the ecosystem it takes to drive and leverage their intersections of advanced technologies. There are systems and people necessary to jumpstart or accelerate a digital path to strategic success. So our vision is simple: wealth, prosperity, and equity through technology. And of those, perhaps the most important is equity. Certainly the hardest one to attain is equity. And that's something that's terribly important to us. So what is Industry 4.0? For those of you who already know, I'm sorry, I'll be fairly quick about it, but Industry 4.0 stands for the fourth industrial revolution. It encompasses all the technologies that are rapidly disrupting the manufacturing industry today. Think about IoT, big data, the cloud, artificial intelligence, advanced robotics, 3D printing, augmented and virtual reality, and cybersecurity. These are the things that make up Industry 4.0. These are the things that make the changes that are overlaying into the world right now. These are the changes that manufacturers are going to have to adapt, because they've moved away from, manufacturing has moved away from dirty, dull, and dangerous into one of the most advanced sectors in the world. We meet people all the time who are making fascinating things that we never even thought about, and they're making them in ways that were unprecedented a very short time ago. As legendary hockey player Wayne Gretzky once said, success comes not from skating to where the puck is, but from where it will be. So at Automation Alley, on behalf of Michigan's manufacturing, we're trying to go where the puck will be. So following these high-level trends gives us an idea of where we should all focus our attention. Today, I'm going to talk you through some of those trends. There is an urgency to innovate now more than ever. The coronavirus pandemic has caused massive disruptions across societies and industries. It has forced us to alter the way we live day to day. And of course, it alters the way we do business. For those of you in it right now, just about to launch your careers, moving into new careers, this is a really scary time, and it's also a really exciting time. I'll talk to you a little bit about one of the big changes we've seen as a result of COVID and how that's perhaps made new opportunities for people. So what does Industry 4.0 and COVID-19 mean for your career? Well, the pandemic has impacted your generation, and it's got people looking at technology very differently. We cannot diminish the human and economic toll this crisis caused, but in order to move forward, we do need to look for some kind of silver linings. One that I consistently see is we have worked with people. We know manufacturing needs to move. We all know we need to make changes. We need to move rapidly. We need to learn quicker. We need to be more robust. But our hesitation to make changes is significant. And as a rule, people don't really like to make changes. So since COVID, you cannot reopen a manufacturing facility in Michigan, nor in most of your nations. You can't reopen a manufacturing facility unless you have taken very specific actions and taken the steps necessary to enhance the safetiness of your facility. And by the way, the number one way we're doing that is applying technology to physical spaces. That's Industry 4.0. So COVID-19 has moved people who were on the sidelines looking in and forced them to jump in with both feet and say, we are moving forward rapidly with technological changes. One of the unexpected byproducts of the lockdown that we've all experienced in varying degrees, the US, we experience it different from our neighboring states, has been a relatively seamless transition to digitization. Look at this conference, this beautiful campus party conference that's being done virtually. It's really an exciting time for us to meet people we might not have met otherwise because you're all over the world, and I can't wait to get to know you better. Sure, there have been hurdles to overcome. There have been bumps along the way, but it's been remarkable to witness how companies are innovating during one of the most difficult times in our history. We see companies transitioning to remote work. We take part in virtual events like this one. We collect real-time intelligence on employee health. These are COVID success stories. These are things that are not simply COVID. These are long-term strategic improvements in how we do business, how we interact with each other, and much of this is here to stay. Once the COVID is gone, we're still left with the lessons we learned, and we're going to carry those with us into the future. And the younger you are, the more distance you have to carry it, you're going to have years and years to remember and apply the technologies you're learning just to survive today, just to reopen your business, just to keep your revenue stream up. Those lessons will stay with you, and they will be powerfully impactful for years to come. So in some ways, if you're working, the pandemic has forced your company to accelerate digital transformation and in every way how it does business. If you're in school, your university will probably shift to more virtual opportunities in the fall. My 20-year-old stepson is teaching voice lessons online, and it's exciting. He's able to make a living while being a college student. He can't sing much in public places because that's something we can't do right now. It's not considered safe, but he's able to teach young people. And aside from the fact that within my home, I sometimes hear a warbling youngster who's not all that good yet. That's a little bit of my background noise. I know that they'll become great singers someday at the hands of somebody who's creatively using his Zoom to find a way to communicate with his students. Another trend that we're seeing going forward is going to be jobs are getting more abstract. The more time you spend in the virtual world, we see new occupations arising. For example, operating a digital platform is a new job that didn't even exist before pre-COVID-19. We actually just moved somebody within our organization into a digital event role. We didn't have a digital event role 6 months ago. In manufacturing, we saw companies move swiftly to reconfigure factories. They acquired the materials, the expertise needed to build critical personal protection equipment and ventilators, all while keeping their workforces safe and healthy. And by the way, we're working closely with that within Automation Alley. We've seen companies of all sizes shift to help where they could. We are right now working with small to mid-sized companies to help them be prepared for the next wave, should we have one, to be PPE providers. We want to be the leaders in the nation in that. Led by our automakers, Detroit plants that typically churn out cars were repurposed to make the much needed ventilators, masks, face shields, and other PPE that we needed. Distilleries that used to make whiskey and rum now turn on hand sanitizer and disinfectant. These are dramatic changes that were done like a pivot very quickly because of the technology that enabled them. Technology is also enabling agility in scaling and shifting of production. That's going to continue for a long time. The ability to make this pivot was so dramatic. We watched companies turn things in 3 weeks that would have historically taken 18 months. The rise of 3D printing and generative design is an interesting trend. We saw how this helped people produce PPE. As materials evolve, designing customized items on the fly or generative design of parts and products, it's going to be here to stay. You're customized. The things we're doing now as a result of a dramatic need are going to be things that play into your customized future. You're going to have customized clothes. You're going to have customized shoes. You're already able to do a lot of these things online and order things that want personalized for you. As manufacturing sector begins to reopen, we saw companies put technology in place to collect data for the purpose of tracking and tracing outbreaks to prevent further spread. In fact, COVID-19 has spurred such a shift within organizations that they're analyzing more data than ever. In addition to tracking the virus, they now collect information on supply chain disruptions and pandemic-related behavior. Again, all of this technology is just temporarily being used for COVID. This technology is staying with you for a long time. Data teams are now being asked to create new simulations for the coming recession. They're going to create scorecards to track pandemic-related behavior. They're going to add COVID-19 control variables to marketing models. And once we've managed to get COVID under control, those same technologies are part of your future. So think about the things you can do with the science of the future. Think about the things you can do with scorecards that once tracked pandemic, but can now track the revenue for your company, that can tell you what color cars you should be building, how many shoes you need to make in each given size, what colors they need to be, and what type of sole they have. That technology that we're putting into place now is just temporarily used for COVID. As the world becomes more automated and machines are more pervasive, so too are the humans who are going to interact with them and gather and analyze the data that comes from the machines. Your generation doesn't fear machinery, doesn't fear technology. So these data jobs are the jobs of the future. They will last long beyond COVID-19. As we collect data, the acceleration of technological adaptation will be led by machine learning and artificial intelligence, two areas that will be seeing explosive growth in manufacturing, but also in medical. We see race to develop medical treatments to fight the virus, to develop a vaccine, and we're going to have medical technology post-COVID that's going to help us understand disease far into the future. It's an exciting time. A greater emphasis will need to be placed on cybersecurity jobs to fight the growing number of attacks as hackers prey on new vulnerabilities created as a result of everybody being forced to limit your life to online interactions, including your work, your school, your shopping from home. Even people who never did shopping online or shopping online, people who never did video calls or doing video calls. It's the only way we can connect with one another. It's all we have. But it does expose cybersecurity. Another observation has been the rise of the gig economy. And again, I look at the rest of you. Sorry about that. So as you've moved towards the gig economy, you may never work for a corporation. When I was 25, I wanted nothing more than to work for a large multinational corporation. You may never want to do that, or you may do that, but simply as a gig provider. You are your own future. You are your own brand. We see people who are under the age of 30 building strong brands that are dynamic and can go with them for years. Amid the stay-at-home orders and national economic downturn, the gig economy is fundamentally an essential part of daily lives. Think about companies like Instacart, Grubhub, Postmates, Uber, Lyft, delivering food and groceries to people living in isolation. One of the reasons the gig economy is so successful is it satisfies consumer preferences for products that are on demand, convenient, and easy to use. But in order for this business model to work, changes have to be made that are now part of our new normal in the COVID-19 world. For starters, while the gig economy offers flexibility, workers have limited access to unemployment benefits, health insurance, or sick leave. According to the World Economic Forum, almost 70% of gig workers surveyed recently said they were not satisfied with support they received from their companies during the pandemic. 70%. Shifting gears, we also see other technology trends accelerating due to the pandemic. Technologies such as using VR, AR as a training tool for new production processes on the job, new employees have faster new product introduction. Applications like Light Guide Systems, a company we work regularly with, are augmented reality work instructions that speed up rapid on-the-job training on the shop floor. Moving beyond manufacturing, VR technologies are used by cultural institutions, schools, and workplaces to enable more immersive experiences. The world is changing, but while the world is changing in many ways, the fundamentals are really the same. Acquire skills and do things that people need. That's always of value, always has been, always will be. History has taught us that technology creates more opportunities and jobs. And while the state of the world might look confusing and scary right now, one thing we cannot fear is change. The fourth industrial revolution, coupled with COVID-19, has created an inflection point in history that will forever change the way we live, work, and connect with one another. Industry 4.0 does not simply change the way we make products. It alters business models, disrupts entire industries, and sparks innovation across the globe. Automation now exists to help customers of all sizes navigate this digital transformation. But the digital transformation requires a complete change in attitude, one that integrates technology into the very DNA of our organizations. In order to be successful in a digital world, companies of all levels have to create a culture where people feel free to change, free to try new things, free to fail. This is the foundation of innovation. As Industry 4.0 accelerates, companies large and small must commit to building a culture where people feel free to create change, where technology isn't something to fear, but something we embrace. There is no such thing as failure in Industry 4.0. It's what did I learn? How do I apply it to the next time? It's these iterative changes that help us grow and help technology move us forward. As we look to the future, you will have many opportunities to do new things, but the most important may be learning and finding a new way to learn. How are you learning today? How did you learn 6 months ago? How might you learn 6 months from now? What's going to be next for you? That's the part that I care about, because I want to know how people who are looking at technology through the lens of young people with their eyes wide open for a future big and bright ahead of you, how are you looking at technology as an overlay into everything you're going to do in the future? And how can people like Automation Alley and our partnership with the World Economic Forum and our global AmHub partners in Turkey and Italy and Spain and Brazil and Australia help us drive a future that is of value to you? So I would like to take questions if anybody has questions.
Cynthia, that was great. We do have a couple questions. One that came in is, how will Industry 4.0 impact the future industrial workforce?
The industrial workforce, each individual person is going to be tasked with knowing more things. It's going to make opportunities to learn will be greater, but the technology, the things like the augmented reality and virtual reality training are critical to helping people who already do one thing, do many things. You all know that Detroit was the home of the second industrial revolution, where for the first time we used an assembly line. Ironically, Industry 4.0 is we're going to kind of undo that a little bit. We look at how we manufacture today. Things are very sequential, left to right. People do one thing. In Industry 4.0, the technology really mandates that we learn to do multiple things. So being an iterative thinker, thinking on your feet, being able to look at something and realize that the part you make impacts the part the next person makes. They all go along a line together, but they're all intermingled. So there's the connection for industrial manufacturing. It's going to be each person has to know more than he or she used to have to know, and know more about the holistic view. You're not making a door handle anymore. You're making a part of a car. And it's important to remember that that is always part of something bigger. Another transformation that's happening is the educational process itself. I spoke with a president of a university recently who told me that just 3 months before COVID, they assessed 1,600 courses and decided that 22 of them could be taught online. 10 days after COVID, all 1,600 courses were taught online. So we were forced by COVID to do things that actually are Industry 4.0 that we already knew we had to do. We just didn't have that push to make that happen.
Mm-hmm. What would be your biggest advice or best advice for the campuseros that are listening to this that haven't really lived through a major crisis? COVID is their first one. How do they pivot? Besides learning, what advice would you give them for them to succeed in this new world that we're going to come out of?
I would look at, whether or not it's gig economy, I would look at making sure that you have multiple skills that cross into different industries. Because as one industry we've seen, Detroit's a great example because Detroit has been through a number of economic crises of pretty sizable proportions. Certainly automotive has been impacted on multiple occasions. There was a time in Detroit where automotive really went off the rails in 2008, 9, and 10. And at that time, people who had skills that were transferable could look across the way in another industry like aerospace or the defense sector, were able to pivot their careers into another sector. Mm-hmm. I think similarly, this generation, if I were looking at what to do, I would learn a little bit about machine learning, a little bit about AI, a lot about cybersecurity, a little bit about advanced manufacturing. Learn a little bit about everything. Understand that things like 3D printing are hugely disruptive. If you think about it, I saw a part not long ago that GM, one of the car companies made that had 16 components. They took it they ran it through a synthesizer that iterated, reiterated until it made the most ideal form. And that created a single part. So 16 components turned into one single part that was lightweight, durable, and ready to go. And that's a little bit scary because that means that 16 different manufacturers may have contributed in making that original part. So now there's only one manufacturer needed, and it's easy and it's in-house. So those things are, while they feel threatening on the outside, the way to make it not threatening is learn how to do the things that created that. Learn how to use the softwares. Learn the softwares that are driving the artificial intelligence. That's really what it all is. It's artificial intelligence is looking at the problem and saying, we need this to weigh less than X. It's got to be able to hold a certain weight. It's got to have a tension ratio. It's got to have a surface ratio. All of those things get calculated, and then the product is created in what appears to be a simple fashion, but behind it are lots and lots of data points. So I think learning data, learning some artificial intelligence, learning a little bit about cybersecurity, and learning about 3D printing are a foundation. But the bigger picture is learn multiple things so that you can pivot and always look at how your industry parallels others. We've worked so closely with manufacturing, and yet we're talking to healthcare companies now because they're doing the same things. We think of 3D printing as stacking and building a part for a car. Well, 3D printing is also building skin. I've seen skin being built in labs. So if you take a cell and you start to build skin, that's a 3D printing process. So hospitals are doing the same things as manufacturers. So now you can be in automotive and suddenly realize that you could pivot into the medical space. So I think that's one of the things. Keep your eyes very open. If you're young and starting your career, keep your eyes open to see what could be next for you, where you could pivot if you had to.
Great. That's excellent advice. That's all the questions we have today. On behalf of Campus Party Digital Edition USA, we want to thank you, Cynthia, and Automation Alley for being a great supporter of this event. And we look forward to reconvening next year in Detroit in person. So have a great day.
Thank you. You too. I'll see you next year.
Thanks.
Bye.
Grand Valley is a teaching university, and it's focused on the student, and yet we have research university quality facilities.
Grand Valley is very focused first and foremost on the education of our students.
The style at Grand Valley is very hands-on. You work directly with the profs in smaller classroom settings.
So it's a really open environment, a lot of discussion in the classrooms.
We're also really able to apply our skills and our knowledge that we've learned at Grand Valley to make somebody's life better.